Hey guys, Coach Logan here again, looking to record another video. Let's see if we can find an opponent. Alright, mate in 36, 2267. That's a funny name. We'll play e4. Okay, Nimzowitsch Defence, let's go there. Okay, I never really know what to play against this line. Let's grab the pawn. Let's just develop. Try to control the d5 square. At some point I'll play knight f3. Okay, if I do it now, maybe knight g4 is a little bit annoying. I do have knight d4. Sort of would be like a fried liver, but I think that's okay. Knight to d4. He really wants to chop on f2. Okay, no, he's not going to do that. All right, we'll just take this with the queen. Okay, let's go bishop e3. Let's just develop quickly. It's trading. I don't mind this pawn structure. Kind of like it actually. It gives me some semi-open files to play with. All right, let's go castle or rook to d1. Let's go rook to d1. I don't really mind my king in the middle here. Okay, let's... I'm actually going to play the move e5. I want to make it hard for him to push this pawn. He might play f6. Okay, let's go bishop to h3, make it hard for him to improve his knight. Then I want to bring something... I would like to get knight e4 in. The only move that's kind of annoying is f6, because it sort of breaks up the clamp I'm trying to put on this d-pawn from moving. So I think at some point f6 is like a natural move for him. But I can throw in rook to g1, bother the g-pawn. In fact, let's do that now. Let's bother this pawn right now. If he pushes it, then it... Okay, so now I think knight e4... Yeah, this looks nice now. Okay. I'm sure I mishandled some of the opening at some points. That's what happens when they play these kind of sidelines that aren't that great, but like, I mean, who studies these things? So yeah, I think black's in a tough spot here because he can't really get d5 in or f5 so easily. Okay, so how do we improve now? Okay. Let's go... Alright, I'm just going to play king f2. And I'm looking to stack rooks on the d file, actually. Yeah, I think I want to stack with my rooks here. I was thinking about knight d6 or knight f6, but honestly I kind of like my knight where it is. And, I don't know, improving this rook. Now that I've sort of provoked g6, which was a weakness, I think the rook is actually kind of useless over here. So, you know, unless I could get it to h4 where I could bother the knight, but that's not so easy to do. So I think I'm going to bring it to d1. I think a lot in my games I notice about like which pieces I need to improve. I think that's a sort of my style is to very much think in terms of just looking for my worst piece and how to make it better. Okay, so that's what he's been doing with his bishop. Do I take? If I take... I don't love it. But if I move this, he has knight f5, so I think I kind of have to take. Okay. It's not my favorite. Okay, let's drop the knight into f6 though now. Bother that pawn on h7, try to better control the d7 square. At some point I might maybe like to anchor this pawn a little bit more with pawn to f4. This way, if there's like a mass exchange on the d file, you know, at the end of it I can at least grab a pawn on h7 in that knight endgame. You know, it's, I don't know if it's much, but being up a pawn in a, you know, simplified endgame is better than not being up a pawn. Okay. So, alright, we'll play... Does he have any entry squares? Not really. I'm going to play f4 just to secure this pawn a little bit better. Then I'll bring my knight back. Let's bring the knight back this way. Okay, I'm actually going to go e4, make it harder for him to use his knight actively. We'll go c3, just keeping an eye on that knight. Although it's kind of hard to completely shut out. Okay, well, I don't really see too much for his knight to do. I can bring my king up a little bit. Let's play a3 just to keep it tight. Okay, let's, I think I've got everything covered. Now we can try to create something bothersome for him over here. Alright, let's try to work this knight back. How can I get it back? Okay, I see a path. Let's bring the knight in this way. Alright, we'll take that. Okay, let's go check. Get my king up. Part of the issue here is just the time scramble. Okay, he gives me a pawn. Check. Ah, that was silly. Okay. This is poor play and time trouble, but okay, let's run the pawn. Let's take this pawn. I'm going to prioritize getting rid of some of these pawns too. Okay, alright, so I won on time, which is kind of lame, but I guess it was an interesting game. Certainly not a perfect one by any stretch, but we can take a look and try to analyze. So, okay, let's let it figure this out. I think he just offered me a rematch. Oh, sorry, now that's Jude challenged me. Sorry, Jude, I'm going over a game right now for a video, but maybe another time. Jude has challenged me a lot, but I'll find us some time to play him later. Okay, so, alright, e4, he has Nimzowitsch Defence, e5, I took, d5 is also certainly a move. Sometimes I don't love giving this diagonal for his bishop though, so I just took knight c3, bishop c4, bishop c5, I went knight f3. I was trying to figure out what would happen if he did knight g4, it's sort of like a fried liver idea, just attacking this pawn. Like I was figuring I'd have to play knight d4, and I was curious. Okay, the computer's looking at some bishop c4 stuff, but maybe this could get dangerous. I mean, yeah, this could be like I forgot what that variation is called, but it's you know, now if you take I think now, okay, they're pointing out queen e7, but also just this knight takes f2 idea, and if you were to take now, you know, some of these queen checks are kind of scary, queen f6 or queen h4. So I don't know. Maybe I'd have to go for this bishop c4 thing, and it gets kind of wild. King f1. I'd assume he'd want to save his piece, so I'd assume he'd get his bishop out of there. They're pointing out you could do it this way, but white would actually have a lot of development for the sacrifice pawn and sort of king. So I don't know. I'll have to look at that more later. But knight takes f3, so he didn't go for that. He just went for queen f6. I went bishop e3. Yeah, I mean, this is a good example where double pawns are really not bad. And the one in front is quite solid. I have two very nice semi-open files to play with here for my rooks, and I think white's extra space and activity give him an advantage. c6. He's trying to get in, like, I just don't think c6 is a good move. It's just going to weaken the d6 square and the d7 pawn. Like rook to d1. Okay, I went e5 here so that if he ever pushes this, I can just take en passant. He went knight h6. I went bishop h3 to try to stop this knight from coming to f5. I really thought he should do f6, which is I think the computer's pointing out too, f6 or f5. Rook to d1. That allowed rook g6, provoking this, and then now knight e4. And how does he push a pawn here? This is the point. Is either pawn I can take en passant, and it's just going to be bad for him. So yeah, this is one, it's even material, but the computer hates this position, and it makes sense because it's just not a very good position. He can't really do too much for his pieces. So he played b6, trying to activate his light square bishop. I went king f2, rook to d6, just to really slam the door on this pawn ever moving and try to stack up pressure on it. Bishop c4. Rook to d1. He played bishop e6, so he managed to take a terrible piece and swap it off for my bishop, but even that wasn't really enough. Knight f6 is what I played, just to keep control of the open file here. Yeah, I mean, I just think this is a good example of like where an endgame you can have where, you know, materials even, the kings are safe, the black's pawn structure is not like atrocious or anything like that, but white's activity is just so much better, and white has more space and better activity to go with it, and is controlling the only open file, and just the quality of white's pieces means that white has a very significant advantage here, probably a winning one. Takes, he went rook to d8, and then I just took and grabbed the pawn. I'm sure there were cleaner ways to win, but an extra pawn is an extra pawn. And then it was some nonsense and time trouble, so I don't really know what to make of this. I was just trying to keep his knight from doing anything too active. One thing when you're in in a time scramble, while there might be wins out there, it's sort of impractical to go looking for them if they're complicated. So I was just trying to keep his knight as restricted as possible. Engine's pointing out b5 would do a better job of that than I did, because now just where does the knight go? Anywhere it goes, it's just going to be dominated by my pawns. But even this would make me a little bit nervous giving up a weak square like the c5 square. So I just kept everything solid. Takes. He's just, how does he improve here? h4. And then I just tried to bring my knight around to a different square, just so I could get my king further active. Yeah. Okay. So, again, I don't know how great my play was here, but it was just good enough, especially in this, time melee here. Yeah, just take. And, I won on time, but I'm pretty sure this is just a winning position, with these extra pawns. So, interesting game. Not really an opening you see too much. This Nimzowitsch Defence. Some of these players, like Nimzowitsch, Alekhine, contributed a lot to the game, but the openings named after them haven't really held up all that well. But, well, I guess the Nimzo Indian has, but that's different. So I will see you guys next video.